Greetings guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. I hope that you are well and I hope that you are fighting because there is a lot to be fighting for. As usual, there'll be a link in the description to the page on my website with a bunch of petitions, donations, emails to send to MPs, etc, etc. As you know, a few days ago I uploaded a video addressing that vegan teacher and talking about how her content is quite harmful, and she made a response video quite promptly. And there are a few things that she said in her response that I think are important to go over. And I'm still here with a little bit of hope that maybe, just maybe she will listen to me. So yeah, I'm here to talk about that, to go over some things, and then I will leave it. I think that after I say this, there's nothing more that I can say. And yeah, so that is what we are going to do today. To begin with, Katie opened her video by addressing me as her new student, and I just think that this is very funny because Katie went vegan in late June of 2016 and I went vegan in early February of 2017. So that's like, what, 6 months apart of when our veganism started? And prior to my veganism, I was vegetarian from the age of 10. So a majority of my life, I have been a part of vegetarian, vegan communities and animal activism groups for a very, very long time, since I was quite young. And my veganism is a very core part of who I am as a person. And addressing me as a new student, I just think is very, very funny because I do believe I have been doing this longer than she has. And because of how long I have been involved in animal activism and in veganism, I feel as though I have a very different perspective to a lot of people who are addressing her. And I think that I am more aware of how to approach these situations and how to talk to people. As I said in my last video, I was quite an angry vegan for a long period of time. I addressed things similarly to how Katie addresses things, and that's why I think I am able to speak on this, because I understand where she is coming from, and I also am aware that it does not work. Since I changed my activism and educated myself on these issues and on the privileges that come from the vegan community and how being forceful isn't helpful, I have been more impactful within my discussions and within making people make more vegan choices, or helping people make more vegan choices. That is an issue within Katie's veganism and within her content. Her activism comes from a place of wanting validation and approval from other vegans rather than getting through to non-vegans into making more vegan choices. And you can get that through the fact that in her video, she said, vegans shouldn't be pulling other vegans down, we should be building each other up. And for that, I want to say, Katie, I wasn't attacking you, I wasn't trying to pull you down, I was trying to have a conversation with you and tell you how I think you can improve what you are doing, and what you are doing is harmful. My veganism doesn't exist to build up other vegans. My veganism doesn't exist to get validation and love from other people. My veganism exists for the benefit of animals and for the environment. That is it. I do not care what other people think about me, about my decisions in that. That is not what I am here for. And it is because of that that I changed the way I speak about this and changed it into make more vegan choices, encouraging more choices and not encouraging veganism as a whole, because I live in the real world where I know people aren't just going to go vegan. Despite what you say, despite what you think, you can't just make everyone go vegan. That is very, very unrealistic. 10 people going vegan half of the time helps more animals than one person going completely vegan. So that is what I aim to do. Encouraging more vegan choices helps more animals than encouraging complete veganism to the point where so few people actually listen. At the end of your last video, you told me that I didn't speak enough about the animals in my video. And that is because my video was not about animals. My video was not about veganism. My video was about you. My video was about how you are doing more harm than good with the way you go about your activism. This isn't about how you treat animals. This is about how you treat people and how your content negatively affects people and thus damaging the vegan community in the process. You said that I called you racist, sexist, and homophobic. I did not directly call you racist, sexist, or homophobic. You put those labels on yourself. What I said was that the content you put out is racist, sexist, and homophobic. You compare vegan phobia to racism, to sexism, to homophobia, and I explained to you why that isn't okay and why vegan phobia is not real. It is not oppression. You said that you are not any of those things because you do things in your personal life that you believe benefit those communities. However, that is not the content that you are putting on the internet. That is not things we can hold you accountable for. That is not what your content is. Your content is harming oppressed communities, it is harming minorities, and those groups of people have told you time and time over that what you are saying and what you are doing is harming them. And yet you keep ignoring that and you keep producing that content. By continuously creating content that people are telling you is harmful, I don't know how you expect us to have a different image of you. I don't know how you think that that is going to be beneficial in any way at all. As I briefly touched on last time, white veganism is a big issue. There's so much racism that comes from the vegan community, especially big influential vegans. You say things that are actively harming the Black community. And when they tell you, this is harmful, this isn't okay, and you ignore that and continue to say those things, you are showing that you are only trying to appeal to a white audience. And that isn't okay, and that is racist. You should be trying to appeal to everyone. You should be encouraging everyone to make more vegan choices. And by completely neglecting minority groups within your veganism and within your activism, that is racist. That is why people are calling you racist. And that is something that you need to fix and you need to work on. If people are telling you what you're saying is harmful and that you need to stop, you need to stop. Period.
I don't know how she can say, you should listen to me because I'm saying you're harming animals, and then go, la la la, not harming people, la 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 la.
The next issue you brought up is when people are in situations where they have to make non-vegan choices. If they do not have another option and they have to make a non-vegan choice, then that is okay. And you said that that was fine. And I agree with you there. That is something that we agree on. If you can make a vegan choice, then make a vegan choice. That we agree on that. I don't know why you thought that I was saying differently, but that is not something that you say within your content. You constantly are saying, it's not enough. There are no excuses. You have to make vegan choices at all time. There is never an alternative. But then you just said in your video that sometimes there is, and that's okay as long as you're trying your best. That is what my activism looks like a lot of the time. We agree on that. Make vegan choices where you can, and that is vegan enough. If it's medication, if it's that you can't afford anything else, if it's like necessary and that's all that's available to you, totally fine. That is still veganism. I agree. We are on the same page. The next thing you talked about is health. Now, I'm going to have to put a trigger warning on this for weight and eating disorders. So if you do not want to talk about this, go to this timestamp somewhere on the screen. I don't know where it's going to be. I said that being a healthy vegan was boring, which it is. And I was clearly somewhat joking about that. But then you took it upon yourself to say that being healthy isn't boring. And that, of course, I would say that because I have skinny privilege. And the problem with that, Katie, is that directly before that, I said that I had an eating disorder. You know nothing about my health. You know nothing about my relationship with my body or my relationship with food, but you know that I have an eating disorder and you decide to say that I have skinny privilege. I am aware that skinny privilege exists and I am aware that I may benefit from that. But eating disorders are not a privilege. And the fact that you mentioned my weight at all, especially after I said I struggle with eating, is not okay. You made me very, very aware of my weight, and it is not something I like to think about because it is very distressing for me and actually was a bit of a trigger for me. So I would appreciate if you do not mention people's bodies, if you don't mention people's weight, because that has nothing to do with veganism. When you were talking about healthy vegan, you directly related it to weight. I said I ate a whole tub of ice cream and you were like, well, that's good for you. You're slim. Some people aren't. Some people need to go vegan to lose weight. You don't go vegan to lose weight. That is not why you go vegan. I thought you were vegan for the animals. So why are you here now saying people should go vegan to lose weight? And why are you equating weight loss with health? Your weight and your health are not related. Your veganism and your health are not related. Your veganism and your weight are not related. These three things, not related. You can be an unhealthy vegan. You can be an overweight vegan. You can be a slim carnist. None of these things are at all related. And I don't know what went through your head when you decided to put those three together in a group. Because that is dangerous and that is harmful. And that ties very nicely into the fact that you said eating disorders are not an excuse to not be vegan. And I explained this to you last time, but let me try explain it to you again. You clearly don't understand how eating disorders work. You said if you're does your eating disorder tell you to eat meat? No, it doesn't. Your eating disorder tells you to eat nothing. That is the point. That is why you shouldn't cut meat out of your diet if you have an eating disorder, because eating disorders consume you. You often cannot tell the difference between your moral voice and your eating disorder voice. So if you are struggling with an eating disorder and you want to cut something out of your diet, you don't know if that is a moral decision or an unhealthy mental decision that you are making. It can be very, very hard to separate the two. And if you cut out something from your diet because eating disorder voice is telling you to, that can cause detrimental effects to your mental and physical health. And it can kill you. Eating disorders are lethal. They kill so many people. And as you said earlier, if eating an animal product is necessary to stay alive, then you have to do it. And sometimes, in the case of eating disorder recovery, eating animal products are crucial to staying alive. Because if you continue to remove food groups from your diet, then you are slowly killing yourself. That is the way it works. And I know you said animals aren't food groups, and I agree, but for some people, they are. They are part of their diet, and by cutting that out for the wrong reasons, that can be extremely, extremely harmful to them. And it will give them a bad relationship with veganism. So if they do eventually get through recovery, they will most likely have negative ties to veganism. They will stop being vegan, and going back to being vegan can have detrimental effects on their health based on what is tied to it. And I don't think you understand that, and I need you to educate yourself on that. Saying that eating disorders are not an excuse to not go vegan is harmful. It really is, because people with eating disorders are very susceptible to listening to diet ideas. People with eating disorders will grasp onto anything and any reason to eat less food. And so by hearing anyone say, especially when you put it in relation to losing weight, that you should go vegan and there's no excuse, you are pushing people into an unhealthy place. I was vegetarian throughout my entire eating disorder recovery because I was vegetarian before I developed my eating disorder. So my therapist knew that I made a moral decision to be vegetarian, that my vegetarianism was not related to my eating disorder wanting me to eat less. And I went vegan after I recovered, when I knew that I was able to make a moral decision where I did not have the intention of losing weight or cutting out food from my diet when I went vegan. And because of that, I have a very strong connection with my veganism. I know that it is a moral thing, and it is not at all related to my relationship with food or my body, but rather my relationship with myself and with animals and the environment. On a lighter note, you mentioned multiple times throughout your video that I was complaining about salad being gross and not eating any vegetables. And I obviously did that as a joke. But in all seriousness, I think that it is important to recognize that vegan food is so versatile and there are so many options. It isn't all just salad, especially not now. Even in the 4 years that I have been vegan, so many more food options have become available. I eat more food now than I ever did in the past, including just a larger variety of things. It's incredible the amount of options there are available to you. And so yes, I did eat an entire tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and it was fantastic. And I do not like salad, and I will say I do not like salad, and I do think that is an important thing to say because other people don't like salad. And other people think that veganism consists of nothing but salad. So I just want to say, it does not. You don't need to eat salad to be vegan. You do not have to eat vegetables every day to be vegan. I am not encouraging you to not eat vegetables. I'm just saying that it is possible to not eat vegetables. I am by no means encouraging the diet that I follow. As I said, I do not have the best relationship with food. You can eat so many things, including Jammy Dodgers, which I am wearing in my ears. Jammy Dodgers are vegan, everyone. So are Oreos. Also, if you can read my shirt, I won't say it out loud. I don't want to be demonetized, but it's an option. Yeah, I think that covers everything. I think that is everything that I have to say. Katie, I really hope that you take something away from this. I think that some of your content is good. I do think you have important things to say. I think that it is just very much overshadowed by just a lot of harmful things. You make some good content that is educational and that I do think is helpful and beneficial, but you take away from that with so much other shit that you say. And I am not trying to attack you. I am trying to have a conversation with you and help you make the biggest difference that you can. If you take a look at the response I got on my last video about veganism compared to the responses you get, you will see that being compassionate towards people and listening to what they have to say is much more beneficial. So I really do hope you take this into consideration. And I encourage everyone who is watching this to make vegan choices where you can. The meat, dairy, and poultry industries are horrific, and I do encourage looking into that. Both environmentally and animal welfare is just terrible. There are lots of vegan options available. As I said, there are a lot of cheap alternatives and then some obviously more expensive alternatives, but I encourage small changes. Switching to oat milk is a big thing. Oat milk is fantastic. Everyone drink oat milk. That's like a big change in there already. Yeah, make vegan choices. Don't buy products that are tested on animals. That's another big thing. Listen, I could talk, this is a whole other side tangent, but that's a big thing too. Please don't buy products that are tested on animals. It's got Lulu. No, honestly though, make vegan choices and take care of yourself and your health as well. You are important. Be educated and make informed decisions. We can't all be perfect, obviously, and I know I'm not perfect and I contribute to some shitty industries. We live in a capitalistic society. It is very, very difficult to be ethical. There is no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. We been new. But I try. And I encourage you all to try your best as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for coming. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you would all feel validated. A massive thank you to my Kiwi Fruit channel members whose names are up on the screen right now. A massive thank you to my channel member of the day, November December. I love and appreciate you so, so much. Thank you so much for joining. If you would like to become a channel member, you can click the top link in the description or the little blue join button. You get my video a day early, as well as 10% off my merch, which is all as ethical as it can be. It is fair trade and organic, sustainably sourced, etc. Thank you so, so much for coming. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.